Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're going to look at some shifts in air cargo prices.
That's right. We've got excerpts here from a Baltic exchange report dated May 20th, 2025.
Okay, great. So the Baltic Air Freight Index. Our mission then is to kind of unpack what these numbers are telling us about the market at that moment.
Exactly. The report gives us a snapshot, really, of the spot market, the cost to move air cargo on some key routes.
And this Baltic Air Freight Index, or BAI, that's the main tool here. I see the logo on the report.
Yeah, BAI. Think of it as a pulse check, reflecting supply and demand in air freight. And the Baltic Exchange, they're a pretty well-regarded source for this stuff.
Good to know. So which specific routes are we looking at in this particular excerpt?
Well, we have data for 3 main lanes, all starting in Hong Kong.
Okay.
First is Hong Kong heading to Europe. It specifically mentions Frankfurt and Amsterdam. The code for that is BAI36S.
BAI36S.
Right.
Got it. Europe. What else?
And 2 routes into the U.S. There's Hong Kong to the USA East Coast. That includes Chicago O'Hare, ORD. Its code is BAI38SE.
Okay. East Coast, BAI38SE.
And finally, Hong Kong to the USA West Coast, including LAX, Los Angeles. And that one's BAI38SW.
BAI38SW for the West Coast. Right. Let's get into the numbers then. What were the values on May 20th? Let's start with Europe, BAI36S.
Sure. So for BAI36S, Hong Kong to Europe, for a standard 1,000 kilogram size, the price was 32.89 Hong Kong dollars.
32.89 HKD? And was there much change?
A very slight increase, actually, up just 1.07 HKD.
Tiny.
Yeah. And in U.S. dollars, that translates to 4.21 USD with an even smaller positive change, just 0.01 USD.
Okay, so barely a flicker for the Europe route. What about the U.S. routes? East Coast first, BAI38SE.
Okay, now here's where it gets more interesting. For the East Coast route, BAI38SE, the price was a bit higher at 33.27 HKD.
Okay.
But the change was much bigger, a positive change of 4.70 HKD.
Oh, wow, 0.70. That's quite a jump compared to Europe's 0.07.
Exactly. And in U.S. dollars, the price was 4.25 USD, and the increase there was 0.08 USD.
8 cents USD increase. Okay.
Yeah.
So a noticeable upward push for the East Coast. What might drive that? Just quickly.
Well, it could suggest, stronger demand for goods heading that way, or maybe some constraint on capacity, perhaps. Hard to say from just this snapshot.
Makes sense. And the West Coast, BAI38SW, similar story.
Pretty similar, yeah. The price itself was 32.67 HKD, so slightly lower than the East Coast.
Okay.
But the increase is also significant, up 0.60 HKD.
0.60, still a much larger than the Europe route.
Definitely. And in USD, that came out to 4.18, also showing that 0.08 USD increase, same as the East Coast.
Right, so it really stands out, doesn't it? Both U.S. coasts seeing these much more pronounced price hikes compared to Europe, at least on this specific day.
Precisely. The data point is quite clear on May 20th, 2025. Stronger immediate price pressure, it seems, for air cargo going from Hong Kong to the U.S. versus Europe. The size of the change, HKD or USD, it's just noticeably greater.
Interesting. Now, the report also mentions some trial indices. What's that about?
Yeah, good spot. It lists index numbers 25, 27, 29, 31, 33, 35, and 37, all related to BII spot.
But no actual data for them, routes or values.
No, not in this excerpt anyway. It just lists them as trial. It kind of suggests the Baltic Exchange might be testing out reporting on new routes or maybe different service levels, something like that.
So maybe future developments to watch out for there.
Could be. Gives us a potential hint of what might come next.
Okay. And lastly, there's the usual copyright stuff.
Standard practice, yeah. Baltic Exchange Information Services Ltd. holds the copyright. Basically says you can't just copy and spread this data around without a license. Protects their information.
Right, makes sense. Okay, so let's just quickly recap this deep dive then. The key takeaway from this May 20th, 2025 data seems to be air cargo prices from Hong Kong surged more significantly towards both U.S. coasts compared to the Europe route.
That sums it up perfectly. It's a clear divergence on that day.
And that leaves us and you listening with a question to think about.
Exactly. What could be going on behind these numbers? Are there specific global events or maybe broader economic trends pushing U.S. demand or affecting capacity differently than Europe's? What does this little snapshot imply about international trade dynamics right at that moment? Something to ponder.